you for reminding us.
Thanks for reminding, Nirali.
Elvis needs the reminder.
Yes, yes.
Yes. So first of all, good evening to all of you, and thank you for joining in. First of all, let me just welcome our speaker today, the special speaker, the expert speaker in this field of soft skills, as well as corporate trainer. He is. I got to know Mr. Sumit from this IAM platform, which has been created by our dear Elvis. And as he has given the introduction about the IAM platform, where we are meeting on a regular basis, I think I will not go in much more detail now. And straight away, I will like to welcome our guest speaker today. He has been a TTD certified professional speaker, GBSS auditor, as well as he's a quality analyst. He is a master communicator, which definitely will be all experiencing in some short while. And he has been, he's expert into basically breaking down the complex things and making it easy for the participants to hear, understand what exactly the concepts is all about. He's been juggling into multiple projects while consistently delivering top-notch results. As a leader, he's recognized for his ability to inspire, motivate, and foster personal and professional growth in others. And all this is what we're going to experience in for the next 60 minutes. So enjoy the ride. And also, he is basically, he has done the training into diverse industries, and he is quite adaptable, and he's bringing a lot of versatility in problem solving. His passion lies in empowering individuals and organizations to thrive through his soft skills and insights about the training program. So let's give a warm welcome to Sumit Saxena, and let's hear from him for the next couple of minutes, 60 minutes, in fact. So all to you, Sumit sir. Go ahead. Thank you.
Hey, thank you so much, Sachin. I'll try to justify every word that's been spoken about me here on this platform. I'll try to do my best here. But again, more than facilitating, I would like to learn from each one of you. Right, conflict is something that we often face on a day-to-day basis, be it in our professional lives or be it in our personal lives, right? So every experience of yours may also become a case study of mine, right? So let's learn together. That's what I keep telling to my fellow participants and fellow trainers as well, right? And thank you so much, Elvis. It's been a very great platform. It's very sad that I get to know about it at a very very later stage, but it's never too late to learn. That is what I believe. And yeah, so like it is evident, it's visible that the topic is going to be about effective ways of handling conflicts. Let me share my screen here. uh yeah, great. Please give me a thumbs up if you're able to see the screen. PowerPoint slide.
Yes,
Amazing, amazing.
we can.
Thank you so much. Please make the session more interactive. Let's make it a two-way learning. That is what is my expectations from each one of you. In case if you have any questions, please park it for some time. We will also have a dedicated time to address all the questions here, right? As the topic is there in front of you, we are trying to transform the conflicts into collaboration, right? And then we also aim towards mastering the art of resolution by effectively handling the conflicts. Great. Now, what is in store for us today? We will understand what is conflict. What are the common areas of conflict at workplace? Is conflict really bad? Is conflict good? We will understand it in the terms of functional and dysfunctional conflict. We will also understand the levels of conflicts, different levels of conflicts, and a very famous approach, Thomas Kilmann model for effectively handling conflicts, right? And we will also get to see some strategies on handling conflicts at a workplace. Okay. Now I want each of you to take a 30 seconds of time. I want you to think of a recent conflict. Just close your eyes. Think of a recent conflicts that you have had with someone, and then describe the feeling in just one word, one or two words, not more than that. You can use the chat box in case if you have any difficulty in terms of unmuting yourself and speaking. But if you could speak and let me know your experience, that would be great. Just take a 30 seconds of time. Okay, Kalpana says it's frustration. Introspection, okay. Sad and guilt. That comes from Sachin. Ambika, now that's a different take. Somebody says it's a waste of time. Okay.
It makes you feel dry, I think, Sumit. Like it makes me feel very dry when something
Yes.
is not going in the collaboration mode. It's
True.
conflict. It makes you feel dry.
True. Disappointment, conflict of opinion. Okay. Someone says it's lost. Someone says conflict is one way. Definitely like to understand that. Confusion, yes. Guilt, anxiety, feeling down, right? Mr. Vijay Kumar says conflict is not bad always. Yes. It depends on how you take it, how you plan to resolve it, right? Irritation, okay. Later on thought that I could have responded rather than reacted, right? That's where I believe emotional intelligence takes a very big take here. Right? You need to be very emotionally intelligent if you wanted to resolve conflicts effectively. Amazing. Thank you so much for this thought. Shilpa, thank you so much, each one of you, for sharing your thoughts here. Okay, I get to see we have some more responses. Sometimes it ends in a guilt feeling, right? Because you act before thinking. That could be one way, and then you may end up thinking, okay, I would have resolved it, or I would have handled this conflict or the situation in a very better way. Probably I would have acted more mature. Yes. We will also understand what makes you act in a hasty situation, what makes you go back and think, how could this have been handled in a more mature way, in a more effective way. Great. Okay. Do we have any more responses? Would somebody like to unmute themselves and speak?
So, Sumit, the question says about the recent conflict that
Yes.
we encountered. So, pertaining to that, I just recalled a conflict that happened this morning.
Okay.
So, at the end, I thought it was actually waste of time. But the points that are added in the chat, they're fairly valid. That sometimes post our conflicts or our arguments or a discussion, we realize this could have been handled better. And as Shilpa mentioned, that the reaction part. You said that it comes with the emotional intelligence. In addition to this, it also comes with your experience.
Yes.
I would like to add. That's it.
Yes.
So, Sumit, what I also feel is, that conflict in a certain limit also leads to resolution.
Yes.
Only it should not, get into disrespect. Conflict with respect, I think. Like we should not disrespect each other, even if I have, that conflict.
Right. But have you ever thought what makes us disrespect somebody's opinion? Why would somebody end up disrespecting someone, or why would somebody end up not paying a heed to the words that are being said? Have you ever thought on these lines?
I think I pondered on this. Like, I think it's lack of maturity.
Okay.
Lack
I
of.
think it's a conflict of values where there is major disagreement in conflict functioning out of that disagreement in value system.
Amazing. Nirali, I was, expecting somebody to say that. Thank you for adding. Right. Apart from ego and all, it's all about the values and difference of opinions that we have, our values, the background that we belong to, and adding to what Ambika has said, your experience, your lack of experience also plays a very major role in handling the conflicts effectively. Thank you so much, each one of you, for adding your thoughts here. Now, what do we see here on the screen?
The story of perspective.
Elephant story.
Okay, that's an elephant story.
Elephant and the blind person.
It's about different perceptions.
Perspective.
Okay. Thank you, Preeti. Thank you, everyone. Would somebody like to narrate this story for me? I was actually trying to narrate it, but I'm leaving it to you. Would somebody like to take an initiative to narrate this story for me?
Malayalam, there is a song, Kannu Kaanathor Nalu Peru Koodi Yaane Kaanaan Poyi.
Kuch nahi samjha.
My God, now this language may also lead to a conflict here because, I'm not.
Okay, so he's saying 4 blind men went to see an elephant.
Okay, 4 blind men are trying to see an elephant. That's great. Right. So let me narrate this story for you. Okay, what are you able to see?
There are 6 men who perceive the body parts of elephant in their own way. Like if I touch this nose or the trunk part, so I feel like that world is like that. So it depends on our perception, how we look at the world.
Okay, thank you for summarizing, but I'll read the story for each one of you. So there was a group of blind men, they have heard, considering the situation that they are blind, they have heard that a strange animal called as an elephant has been brought to the town. None of them were aware of its shape, its form. So out of curiosity, they said, we must inspect and know it by touch, for which we are capable of, right? So they sought it out and they found about it, they groped about it, they groped the animal. The first person whose hand has landed on the trunk, he said, no, elephant is more like a thick snake, right? The other one whose hand has landed on the ear of an elephant said, this seemed more like a fan. For another person whose hand has landed upon the leg of an elephant, he said the elephant is more like a tree trunk, quite hard tree trunk. Now, another blind man whose hand has landed upon the side of an elephant, he said it's more like a wall. I don't get to see it like a tree trunk. I don't get to feel it like a hand, like a fan. I don't get to feel it like a snake, right? Now, the other one whose hand has landed on the tail, he started describing the shape of an elephant as a rope. The last person whose hand has landed on the tusk of an elephant, he started stating that it's more like a hard, smooth spear that people may end up using in war, right? These blind men, they started discovering their disagreements. They suspected each other for not telling the truth. They came to blows. Then a sighted man, he enters the parable, he enters the situation, and then he describes the elephant from various perspectives. These blind men, they learn that they were all partially correct, but they were all partially wrong. While one's subjective experience is true, it may not be totally true. They stopped talking, they started listening to each other, they collaborated to see the full elephant. What are your takeaways from this story?
Remove the blindfold.
Okay.
Get into the other person's shoes. Sometimes we only look through our perspective. We don't see the other person's perspective.
Okay. So diverse
We should
perspectives.
think about the situation from all angles.
Okay. Okay. So respecting others' opinions, diverse
Listen to
perspectives,
others.
listen to others. Active listening also plays a major role here. Yes.
Yes.
When you
I
start
think that
collaborating,
Collaborating. Thank you so much, sir, for adding it. Okay.
when you start collaborating, you put all the pieces of puzzle together and make a solution for the problem.
Right.
I would like to add that there could be some barriers. There could be internal barriers also.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be good to remove those barriers and see things from others' point of view as well. Like others have spoken about empathy, so I have that feeling that when we have blindfolded ourselves, we have created barriers for ourselves.
Very true. Very true. Thank you so much, each
Listen
one of you. Yes, please.
listen to other people before arriving at the final conclusion.
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much,
Yes,
sir.
so sometimes, yeah, sometimes we, I mean, whenever conflict arises, the thing is that we feel that the person feels that I'm right.
Mm-hmm.
I'm only right. So what I feel, what I think is what it is. So we don't think of, or we don't understand or pay attention to what the person in front of you is thinking, his perspective and his way. So this is like everyone is thinking that I am right. This is, I felt this is tusk or trunk. So this is what it is. And
Very
you
true.
don't understand or you don't agree that yes, that perspective is also right.
So there is a phrase that says, my way is my way. I am right always. That comes from an experience, etc., etc. People try to justify that. Right, to summarize what each one of you have said, my God, the audience here, they are well equipped to handle conflicts. They understand what conflict is all about, right? And what are the sources or common areas of conflict. Amazing. Right. So let us collaborate and see our learnings. One is diverse perspective, right? Just as each blind man has touched a different part of the elephant, they have formed a distinct opinion, isn't it? Right? Individuals in a conflict may have varied experiences. They may have interpretations of situations in their own way. One has to acknowledge that each party's perspective is shaped by their own experience, is shaped by their own feelings, and it becomes essential for us to pay attention, to listen effectively. Right? Active listening plays an important role here. Second is communication breakdown, isn't it? right? How many of you agree that communication also plays a major role here? Yes, no, maybe.
There are two
Right?
aspects to it.
Yes. Yes.
One is the communication, it's break of communication. The other one is if there are too many channels or too many people in that end-to-end communication. So the knowledge tends to break or being given in another way. So that also leads to the conflict as well.
True.
Interpretation of message could be different the way
Interpretation.
I said, the way it was taken. So
Yeah. And that's where that sighted man plays a very important role here, isn't it? Right.
yeah.
Okay.
Open-mindedness.
Open-mindedness. Yes, somebody has written something here in the chat. My way is a highway. Okay. Active listening and collaboration. Thank you so much. Right. So the blind man's failure to communicate with each other, share their findings, right? They failed to share their findings with each other. That led to a discord, that led to a physical conflict as well, right? So effective communication is vital. Encouraging an open dialogue can help clarify the misunderstandings, can help an situation to prevent an escalation. Listening and collaboration also plays a major role here. The entry of the sighted man, it symbolizes the importance of a neutral perspective that can provide a holistic view of the situation, right? To facilitate discussions where each party or each individual who is involved in a conflict can share their views. They work together to form a comprehensive understanding of the issue, right? And then recognizing partial truths. Each blind man's description was partially correct, demonstrating that individuals' truth may not encompass the entire reality, isn't it? It is very important that we encourage to recognize the other, what others' opinions is. We need to encourage to recognize that others may hold different points, valid points. Their understanding can always foster empathy. It also helps you to reduce the defensiveness, right? And end of the day, it's all about moving towards a resolution. Once the blind men have started listening to each other, once they have started collaborating, they got to see the whole elephant. One has to encourage collaborative problem solving, where all parties contribute to find a full solution, at the same time respecting and acknowledging the diverse perspectives, right? Great. Thank you so much. We get to see that the story was on point and people are able to relate the story with effective conflict management. Okay, when someone says no, here no, K-N-O-W. Thank you, Sundar. Thank you. Meaning he wants to know more, right? That reminds me to one of my training on objection handling, where I keep saying when a customer says no, don't take it as a no, to take it as a request for more information, regarding a product or regarding a service. Thank you so much. So we all have summarized. We got to see that people spoke about values, people spoke about perspectives, people spoke about opinions. So what exactly is a conflict? It's an expressed struggle between at least two interdependent parties who perceive incompatible goals, scarce resources, which can be majorly seen at our workplaces, interference from others in achieving a goal, a common goal, right? Now, most of the time, conflict also occurs within ourselves, within oneself, right? You need not have two or more parties. Most of the time, the conflict occurs at ourselves as well. Yes, Nirali.
Sumit, I have a question in this context. What you're saying is that, okay, mostly it is because of certain reasons, and they could be very valid reasons. But what I understand with my experiences is that conflict uh, doesn't really happen because of this reason. It happens more because of the emotions that are run in the mind and body, and as a result, that state of mind. So if there is a disagreement due to clash of values, okay, so that disagreement is being communicated. But then because it is being communicated in a very heated way or some disruptive way, that is why conflict. So disagreement at its face value is not a conflict, but the way it has been expressed or communicated is actually conflict. That is what I understand.
Very true, which is why I've mentioned it as an express struggle. And in the initial part of a session, I said emotional intelligence also plays a very important role here. And we will learn more about this, Nirali, when we discuss the Thomas Kilmann model of conflict. Yeah. Thank you so
So,
much.
Sumit, I just have one, one thing to contribute. Like, I also have given a lot of thought on this. Like, sometimes what I feel, the only way out is through conflict. Because idealistically, it's very good to be collaborative, have collaboration. But sometimes, the only way out is, to get into that conflict.
Yes.
I don't know. I may not be right, but that is what my practical experience has been.
Right.
Elvis, I would like to add here, Elvis, if you're saying the only way out is through conflict, I would rather say that conflict is like good stress. So we can't call it the only way out, but we can say that it's one of the healthy options or healthy things to happen. Like sometimes they say stress is good as well, sometimes. So conflicts also are good in a way, but not the only way, but one of the good things to happen.
Very relative, very relative. Like,
But
Elvis, are you talking about conflict in terms of fighting, or you're talking
no,
about
not
conflict in
fighting.
terms
Like
of
when
disagreement?
it comes to taking a stand,
Yeah.
and when there's a lot of opposition, but that you're doing something morally right, but it is leading to conflict, a lot of conflict. Okay, but there
Okay.
compromise cannot be an option. Like for me, compromise is not an option there.
But probably you're focusing on a quality outcome, and that is why you see the importance of conflict, because you don't want people to just follow you blindly. You want to listen to their minds and to their takes, their stands, and with a readiness and openness that they might be different than what you think about. So there is a disagreeing conversation which looks like a conflict.
Yeah, like see, the thing that I'm saying is, collaboration, great, it has to be. Yeah. At times compromising also, taking a step back, mutual, you also compromise. Aap ek kadam lo, main ek kadam leta hu. Let's compromise. But there is a situation at times where, both these don't work. Both these C's don't work. Collaboration also does not work. Compromise also does not work. The only way out is conflict.
I think it depends on
Yes,
temperament,
Elvis.
because there is passive
I'm just
aggression
playing a
also.
devil's advocate a little, to make this a little more juicy. Yeah.
So you're saying, Elvis, it's a lose and win situation?
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Depends upon what relation is involved.
Yeah.
If it is with your partner, with a spouse, you never compete. You accommodate. I keep saying, ask a married man about accommodation. So it depends upon what are you trying to achieve and what kind of a relation you have.
Right.
That this brings me to a context of,
And Sumit, I would like to add also here, when you said that it depends upon what kind of situation, I believe that what is at stake also matters.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay, friends, let's have a speaker present this, and because we all are equally well trained and this into, we also offer these subjects as trainers. So please let us have the speaker move ahead, hold on to your thoughts, write down your questions, and we'll give you time at the end. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Just one sentence for Elvis' point. I think we can say it's brainstorming. Because healthy conflict, we can always say that discussion can be brainstorming. Yeah, thank you.
Every point that has been spoken here is a part of one or the other slide. I request each one of you to please make a note of these questions, right? So before we go through, there is a framework, there is a structural way of learning. We will look into everything in detail, and I'll definitely encourage the questions here, right? Thank you so much. So like I said, right, we were discussing about the viewpoints. So there are usually 3 views of an organizational conflict, right? And one is about traditional view. A traditional view is like, there are like here in this group, there are few people who believe a conflict is always bad. It is destructive. Better avoid it. That's a traditional view of conflict. Now there is something called as a human relation view. They say conflict can be good, conflict can be bad. It depends upon how you handle that conflict, right? Now there is something called as integrationist view, which says conflict, if handled effectively, can lead to brainstorming, can lead to good results, right? It is always good, right? But what is more important, the important component here is how you go ahead and handle this conflict effectively. That is integrationist view. So every individual may have a different view on conflict. End of the day, it depends upon what are you trying to achieve? What is your goal? Right. And that we will learn in the form of Thomas Kilmann model of conflict. Right. Now, like we discussed, for few conflict is good, for few conflict is bad. Let me read out a situation and tell me, is the conflict good or bad here? A team is divided over a design of a new product. One group advocates for a very minimum approach of marketing, while other supports a feature-rich design. Right now, this conflict, it leads to a constructive discussion. This allows for the integration of both perspectives, and ultimately, it results in a more innovative product. Is this conflict good or bad?
It's a good conflict.
It's a good conflict. Amazing. Thank you so much. Now, a project team experiences dysfunction because of unclear role definitions. So the team members, they end up blaming each other for missing deadlines, leading to resentment, guilt, finger pointing, instead of collaborating to solve the problem. Is this conflict good or bad?
Bad.
Bad.
Bad. Amazing. Right. In a company that is facing layoffs, employees spread rumors and gossip about who might be affected, you, me, anybody else. Right now, this creates a culture of fear, distrust, damaging the team cohesion, leading to a decreased overall performance. Is this conflict good or bad?
Bad.
Bad.
Bad. Bad.
True. True. Now, during performance reviews, employees provide feedback on management styles. Constructive feedback from the employees sparks discussions about how do they end up improving the leadership practices, resulting in more engaged workforce. Is this conflict good or bad?
Good. Good.
Isn't it? Right? So there are two ways of conflict. One is functional conflict, other one is dysfunctional conflict. Right? We'll learn more about it. A functional conflict, it works towards a goal of an organization. It works towards a goal of a project, a team, right? It is more constructive. It improves problem solving, right? It encourages innovative thinking. It also unshackles different point of view because you are ending up listening to others' perspectives, others' opinions. People who are involved in this conflict feel free to express their emotions, right? Example, a healthy debate among team members that led to a generation of new ideas, different perspectives that has improved the overall quality of a team's output. That because of which they have managed to achieve their goal. Now, bad conflict is more like a dysfunctional conflict. It blocks an organization, a group, a project from reaching its goal. They shift the focus from goal towards, towards fights, towards being more destructive. It increases stress, it increases anxiety. And people who are involved in this conflict always feel low. It lowers the morale, it decreases the productivity because people are ending up for, someone to make certain decisions. Nobody's able to make decisions. There are trust issues that are forming in the team, in a group, that leads to poor decision making, right? Uncontrolled emotions, like most of you said, anger, resentment, guilt. Now, these emotions are being directed towards individuals, towards a group, not towards the issue, right? An example of dysfunctional conflict could be a team members engaging in personal attacks, refusing to communicate with each other. It can create a toxic work environment that hinders the organization's overall performance. Right. So these are two different views of conflict. One is functional conflict. Second is dysfunctional conflicts. Functional conflicts always leads to a constructive way of resolving conflicts, whereas dysfunctional conflicts is always destructive. Nobody's willing to listen to anyone. That creates mental anxiety, stress, fear, resentment, right? Attrition of most of the organization is only because they don't accept that there is a dysfunctional conflict. They don't train the leadership on conflict resolution. There was an organization where I was working for a very long time ago, and they said, Sumit, what should be the most important soft skill that every level of audience or every level of employee should be trained on? I said, conflicts, managing conflicts effectively. And he was like, no, why should we accept that we have conflicts in our organization? Everything is running smooth. Everything looks good. Conflict is everywhere. People have to understand that. Yes or no? Right? Okay. What could be the common areas of conflict at workplace? I would like to listen from you guys. What kind of common areas of conflicts you observe at your workplace? In a word, not a phrase or a sentence, in a word.
promotions.
Okay.
Increments.
Target, someone said increments
Shared
related to
roles and
roles.
responsibilities.
Roles and responsibilities, unclear roles, we will say, we
Distribution.
can say. Okay.
Use of shared resources.
Scarce resources. Okay.
Partiality.
Amazing. Amazing. Okay. Great.
Appraisals.
Appraisals. Yes. Biases, discrimination. Okay. Resources, targets.
More
Thank you.
of
Yes, please.
work styles, personalities, leadership, creative, lot of it happens with task-based as well.
Right, right, right. Working styles. Okay.
Favoritism.
Favoritism. Right, right. Okay. Let us have a look at the common areas of conflicts at workplace. One is preferred methods. Yes or no? Believing that you have the best ways of doing things that can lead to an expectations and others should always follow your approach. Yes or no? Right? It impacts the decreased collaboration. It decreases the collaboration. It hampers the teamwork. It reduces the innovation limits of people. It reduces the creativity at workplace. It lowers the morale. At the same time, it also generates the frustration. What do we need to do here? You foster open discussions. Try creating a safe sharing space where people can express themselves freely. Focus on the common goals rather than focusing on, what is leading to a conflict. Rather than focusing on individual preferences, shift their focus on a common goal. Encourage flexibility. At the same time, encourage cross-training among people. Right? People will end up empathizing with each other. They'll understand, what leads to a conflict. Second is resource scarcity, like most of you said here, right? Limited availability of resources. It could be time, it could be material, it could be money, budget, right? It often leads to competition. It often leads to stress. It often leads to resentment. Like most of them said, when I asked them to describe conflict in a word, think of a recent conflict. They said resentment, guilt, right? One has to prioritize the task. One has to allocate resources clearly. How do we do that? By maintaining transparent communication about the limitation of resources. Encouraging people to collaborate to optimize the resource use. Third is a task dependence, task interdependence. It's all about tasks that requires cooperation among team members. It could also be your communication with different stakeholders at work. It can often cause delays. The conflict can often cause miscommunication. One has to clearly define roles and responsibilities as to who is involved in a project, who is going to be a primary action owner, who is going to be a secondary action owner, what is the turnaround time to complete this task, right? One has to ensure effective coordination through regular updates. At the same time, I'm again reiterating, provide conflict management training to people. This is very important. Personality differences, right? Variations in individual traits, variations in behaviors. Now, this leads to misunderstanding. This leads to clashes at work. We can implement diversity training to foster appreciation, right? Train people in conflict resolution skills. Use mediations to address conflicts. What is common seen in the top level of management is power struggles, desire for control, desire for authority, right? Among the leadership team, competition for authority, competition for influence. Now, this is something that creates a toxic work environment. This is something that ends up decreasing the productivity of your team, of your group, of your project. One has to clearly establish the hierarchies, clear hierarchies and decision-making processes before initiating a project, at the start of a project. Develop SOPs, empower people to make their decisions within their roles. So there is a lesser dependency here, right? People has to be trained on negotiation techniques. Values is something that most of you have spoken about, right? Differences in personal and professional beliefs with the kind of diverse experience that they carry. Now, this values, it can often lead to ethical dilemma. It can often lead to disagreements. What can we do from an organization perspective is we promote alignment with core company values. People have to be trained on values. People have to be trained on systems. Encourage open discussions with differing viewpoints, right? At the same time, your staff, your employees needs to be trained on ethics to guide on decision making. right? Prejudice, working styles. Thank you, Anand. Yes, right. Now, these are the common areas where conflict is more often seen at a workplace. It is about the preferred methods, scarcity of resources, task interdependence, personality differences, values, power struggles. I think management has to curate. Okay, there is some comment from Nirali. She says, I think management has to curate and identify common areas of conflict in the workplaces, and they will differ from organization to organization. Yes, which is why one should have skip level meetings, which is why one should have frequent surveys on employee satisfaction, right? You get to have a holistic view as to what exactly is happening in the management, in an organization. Thank you for adding your point, Nira. Now, these are the common areas of conflict. Town halls, yes, yes. But most of the time, I have seen people not using these opportunities much. People end up discussing about the facilities that the organization provides. I had people who were debating on the items that were there in the big basket fridge in our organization, in a town hall, right? It is very important that people should use such opportunities to speak up, to express their opinions. Thank you so much for adding that. Now, okay, what do we see? What is happening here in the picture? Yes, Elvis.
So what I have realized is now that most of the time when a person has something against someone, a person will not speak to that person.
Right.
People want to avoid conflict, and in the bargain of avoiding conflict, they end up gossiping and backbiting, and that creates a very unhealthy, unsafe work environment.
True, true. It is where the leadership team has to be trained on strategies of maintaining an open and honest communication. That's where interpersonal skills play an important role. That's where assertive communication plays an important role, because when your people are not trusting you, you're not playing a role of a leader here, right? It will not help you on a long term. Yes, great. Now, what do we see here on the screen?
Donkeys.
Okay, donkeys. What are these donkeys doing here? What do you get to see
Each one
here?
is trying to prove his own point or getting his own grass. He's not bothered about the other donkey.
Amazing, amazing. I get to see we have 34 participants. I expect people, request people.
I think it's about missing collaboration, Suji.
Both are working in different directions.
Okay, both are working in different directions. There is no
Different
collaboration.
directions with the same goal, of reaching the grass that is there in front of it. Both of them are hungry. Both of them have the same hay, but in opposite direction. And they both are straining to reach the hay so that they can fill their tummy or be satisfied in this case. They realize that the resources or the rope is short. So they decide to join forces together and eat the hay one by one, hence getting 100% out of their efforts instead of straining against each other.
Thank you so
Sumit,
much, Kalpana. Very
this
well.
particular picture. Hi, Sumit.
Yes, please.
Sumit, this particular picture actually gives a typical situation in an organization where people have to work always with limited resources. They will not get everything on the table, to achieve things. With the limited resources, they need to kind of manage the complexities in the business and then grow. This is what happening here. Suppose if these two donkeys would have got a much longer rope, there wouldn't have been any conflict at all. There wouldn't have been any learning at all between them. Now, since the rope was shorter, both of them understood that somewhere we need to understand that we need to collaborate and have our own share in a better way. You're wonderful, Sumit.
Thank you so much. I mean, that's an amazing perspective, Karthikeyan, that you have put up. Right. If the rope would have been long, people would have, okay, the donkeys are male and female, and they may end up falling in love. Yeah, that's a humorous take. But thank you so much, Karthikeyan, for for your perspective, for your thought on this. Yes, in fact, I have never thought, what if the rope would have been long? They would have ended, focusing more on their individual goals. Right. Yeah, thank you so much. Very well put up. I get to see people are understanding.
I use it for team leaders also, team building, to create team building.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Yeah.
But
so we get to see.
Sorry, I just want to point out that do we really see the importance of actually talking? People don't want to talk. See, the rope is short or whatever the rope is, but do you have that mental preparedness to talk to each other? That is the fourth picture, the fourth level that I'm seeing, that, there is a question mark, that do we really want to talk to each other? That is the first step of collaboration. If we are not ready, then the donkeys will continue circling in the first three levels of pictures.
Very true. Yes. If we could see in the starting phase of a picture, we get to see that they are facing in the opposite directions. Right? They tried their level best in achieving a goal. Right? The focus was something else. They then collaborated. They got to see that, they have to achieve the same goal, and then that has helped them to eat the food, to taste the cake, in front of them. Thank you so much, Nirali, for adding your point here. Okay, now this brings up to, is it about negotiation? Okay, Preeti, is it about negotiation? A bit. Yes. Depends upon what kind of an outcome would you like to have, right? That matters a lot. That's great. We learned about what conflict is all about. How does one feel when they are a part of conflict or when they are around conflict? We learned about what is functional conflict and dysfunctional conflict. We also discussed about the common areas of conflict at workplaces. Now that brings us to 4 levels of conflict, right? We understand that there is conflict, but what kind of a conflict do professionals experience, or do each one of us experience in our day-to-day life? So conflicts are often categorized in 4 levels. One is intrapersonal conflict, which is all about you. Everything that is running here in your mind, in your heart, in your thoughts, right? It's all about you. Do I have to attend the webinar today, or can I skip and look at a YouTube recording? That could be one of a conflict that runs in your mind, right? Right? Do I speak now, or do I wait for a time that has been that's been given for question and answers? That is something that is running in your mind, right? Everything that runs here is intrapersonal conflict. Now, interpersonal conflict is a conflict that happens between 2 people. I mean, probably you and me, you and your boss, between partners, spouse, friends, relatives, right? It's about 2 different opinions. Intra-group conflict is a conflict that runs within a group, within a project. Intergroup conflict is a conflict that is between 2 different stakeholders or 2 or more groups, right? We will learn more about this in detail. Let us start with what intrapersonal conflict is all about. Has anyone, do anyone here has an idea what intrapersonal conflict is all about?
The yes and no that goes on within your own mind.
Okay.
Conflict between heart and mind.
Conflict between heart
The
and
power
mind.
of discrimination.
Okay.
Struggling to
Maybe
make the right,
sometimes
right choice. What's good? What's bad? If I do this, what will happen? If I do that, what will happen?
sometimes between your values and what you should practically do. I mean, in between that.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah.
Has it happened today? Okay, great.
I'd mentioned in the chat about some dilemmas that we come across in certain situations.
Right.
So
To do,
kind of like to be or not to be, Hamlet-like
To be or-
situation.
Yes.
So that would be intrapersonal.
Yes. So it's a conflict that arises within an individual. It's because of competing values, beliefs, desires, right? It can manifest as a mental struggle. It can manifest as a tension. It could be between 2 different aspects of a personality. It could be our thought, our emotions, our behaviors, which often or most of the time it leads to anxiety. It leads to self-doubt, frustration, as we struggle to reconcile the conflicting desires, right? Or conflicting beliefs. Now, where does it impact? Where does intrapersonal conflict impacts? It impacts on your emotional distress. It leads to an emotional distress. It leads to a self-doubt. It leads to a difficulty in decision making. It leads to procrastination. People end up aiming for perfection, right? Not believing in themselves. It leads to reduced productivity at work. Most of the time, it leads to a negative impact on our relationships, right? It can occur within an individual arising from conflicting thoughts, right? It could be an internal struggle. It could be causes from competing priorities, personal values, moral dilemmas, especially in decision-making situations. Overthinking, yes, of course. Overthinking, yes. Emotional turmoil. It can cause stress, anxiety, guilt, confusion, and whatnot. You will lose your peace of mind. It often leads to indecisiveness, self-doubt, right? It makes it difficult for you to make confident choices. Yes or no? So there are three different forms of intrapersonal conflict. One is approach conflict. I do this or do I do this? To do or not to do, the secondary, right? Approach conflict is one form of an intrapersonal conflict. It occurs when you as an individual have to choose between two or more appealing alternatives. It involves you making a decision when you're faced with multiple positive options, each of one having its own advantages, each of one having its own benefits. Imagine a person who is offered two different job opportunities, both of which give him attractive salaries, growth perspectives, growth prospects, engaging work, right? In this case, you as an individual experience a conflict because you have to choose between two desirable options. It often creates a dilemma where you will end up weighing the advantages and disadvantages of each alternative. Have you ever been through an approach conflict?
Many times,
So
many times.
many times, so many times.
Can someone
on a daily
give one
basis?
example?
During choosing the groom.
Okay, yes. I was about to say that, but then I thought this would become another topic for a conflict. So let me know. Let me avoid it. Yeah, choosing a life partner. Okay. What else?
About parenting also, whether to be a strict or a liberal parent. And
okay. We are speaking about approach here. Two desirable options.
So when you have this session to attend and there alternatively, simultaneously, there is some equally good session being run by some other group. So then you have to make a choice.
Thank you for choosing this session. Thank you for choosing some feel good factor. Yes. Okay.
All right. I actually find it very difficult when I get two training sessions, and actually they tell me to select the dates. So
Okay.
I feel, okay, if I select the date for this particular training company, and what if something much better comes, and if I already have my dates blocked, what do I do? Do I say yes to this, or do I say wait for the other party who has already approached me and said that they'll be coming back with the dates? Should I wait for their confirmation? So for me, when that is in front of me with two companies wanting me as a trainer, or where I am an associate trainer, if both of them tell me to block the dates, we may come back, I know that I'm going to miss out either on something, or both of them will be falling on the same dates. So that really leads me to a lot of stress and anxiety. Who do I say yes to?
Very true. Very true. Right. Like Elvis has mentioned here in the chat, choosing between good and bad is quite easy, but choosing between two goods is quite difficult. Right. I mean, even though you choose one, you will end up resenting not choosing the other one. Right. Right. Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. So that was approach conflict. Approach avoidance, we all know. Right. Approach avoidance is a situation where you are simultaneously attracted and repelled by a particular goal or decision. Right? Imagine an employee who is offered a promotion that comes with increased responsibilities and a higher salary, while they're attracted to the career advancement and the financial benefits. Now, this is approach. They may also feel apprehensive about the added workload, about work-life balance, about potential stress. That is an avoidance. Now, this can often cause internal tension, indecisiveness, as the individual weighs between pros and cons. Right? That is approach avoidance. Last but not least is task or role ambiguity. What is task or role ambiguity? It arises when an individuals are not clear about their roles, when there is no clarity about roles, responsibilities, performance expectations, right? It occurs when there is a lack of clarity or inadequate communication regarding the job task, regarding the objectives, regarding the outcomes or the performance standard. If I have to quote an example, think of a newly hired employee, right, who is not provided with clear instructions or guidance on their job roles and responsibilities, on their expectations. They may experience role ambiguity here. Now, this can lead to confusion, frustration, conflict, as the employee is struggling to understand what is expected out of him. and how should he or she perform their duties. To address this, it involves clear communication, setting clear expectations, providing job descriptions, SOPs, making sure that he has a thorough understanding on what his role is and what is expected out of him, right? This was all about intrapersonal conflict. Now, let us quickly discuss the strategies to overcome intrapersonal conflict. One is you practice self-compassion, right? It can create self-criticism most of the time, negative self-talk. So be more kind towards yourself, understand yourself, acknowledge that conflicts are a normal part of life. It is okay to experience inner tensions. It is okay to face a conflict. Treat yourself with the same sympathy or the same understanding that you may end up offering as an advice to your friend who is in a similar situation. Right? Identify the source of conflict. Start by identifying the specific thought, the belief, the desire, the value. What is causing a conflict within yourself? Go back and reflect on the underlying reasons. What is triggering this conflict? That will bring a clarity to the situation. Once you do that, explore different perspectives. Take time to explore different perspectives. Maintain a journal, right? This can often involve considering other viewpoints, alternative viewpoints, seeking advice from trusted individuals. They may understand your situation and their words may give you a new insight on the situation. Develop a plan of action. Now that you have identified the resource, now that you have different set of, you have explored different perspectives, you create a plan of action. Break down the conflict into manageable steps. Break it into small steps. Outline specific strategies to address each aspect. It will give you a sense of direction to achieve. But while you do all this, it is very important that we also engage in self-care, taking care of your physical and emotional well-being, right? Engage in activities that brings you joy, little happy, your hobbies that could reduce your stress, spending time with kids, with your family, right? Or any mindful practices that you wanted to do. Prioritizing self-care often helps you maintain the resilience and emotional balance while you undergo conflict, right? Last but not least, seek support from trusted individuals, from an outsider, just to have an outside different perspective, right? So you know, as a someone who can provide valuable insights, someone who can help you in someone who can help you in navigating the interpersonal conflict. You will see that you get a fresh perspective and you will find effective solutions. This was all about intrapersonal conflict. Considering the time, I'm not waiting for the questions. Let us learn more about the next level of conflict, that is, allow me a minute. Yeah, interpersonal conflict. Now, intrapersonal conflict was all about yourself, the thoughts that runs in your mind, approach, avoid, unclear objectives, right? Everything that runs here. Now, interpersonal conflict is a conflict that refers to the disagreements, disputes that arises between individuals or a group in an organization, right? It can occur due to difference in opinions, values, goals, and communication styles, right? So what is the nature of interpersonal conflict? It often involves clash of ideas, clash of perspectives. It can manifest as verbal arguments, power struggles, passive or aggressive behavior. People will end up avoiding such conflicts, right? What causes an interpersonal conflict is limited resources, personality clashes, role ambiguity, fight for resources. Yes, different working styles. It can also stem from an unresolved past conflict, perceived unfairness, emotional conflicts. Yes, power imbalances within the organization. Now, where does this all impacts? It can lead to a decreased productivity, reduced job satisfaction, increased stress levels within employees, damaged relationships, toxic work culture. It is very important that this has to be addressed and resolved as quickly as possible for maintaining a healthy and a harmonious work environment. How do we do that? Let us look at the strategies. One, where most of the professional fails, they don't accept that there is a conflict. They don't acknowledge that there is a conflict. You avoid it. You're not trying to prevent it. You're not trying to resolve it. You're trying to avoid it, right? So acknowledge the conflict first. How do you do that? The first step in overcoming interpersonal conflict is to acknowledge its existence. Yes, a conflict exists. If you're trying to delay it, if you're trying to avoid it, you are only prolonging the issue. Recognize and accept that there is a conflict that needs to address. Second, you pay attention. Listen actively, right? Implement active listening skills. It is very crucial in understanding perspectives, concerns of people who are involved. Give each person an opportunity to express their thoughts without interruption, right? Alongside active listening, you also show empathy and try to understand their point of view. Communicate constructively. Use I statements. I understand what you're going through. Yes, I understand how it feels if it happens this way, right? Use I statements to express your feelings without blaming or without attacking others. Be mindful of your tone, be mindful of your body language, because end of the day, you wanted to maintain a respectful communication. Identify common goals, shift the focus from disputes to a common goal. Look for common goals, look for shared interest between the conflicting parties, between the people who are involved in this conflict. Now, focusing on common objectives will help to shift the focus from individual differences to a mutually beneficial solution, right? Brainstorm solutions. Now that you have identified the common goals, encourage a collaborative approach for problem solving. Let them generate a variety of solutions together. Allow room for creativity, allow room for diverse perspectives. Encourage all parties to contribute their ideas and actively participate in the process. Yes, Shilpa.
Yes, so identify common goals. So the diagram image that you had shown with two donkeys, like they had a common goal to eat that grass, right?
Right.
Yeah, so I could relate that point over here, and then
Yes.
later on they resolved it and they went together to the common goal.
Yes.
And it was solved. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much. I get to see that we are relating to the case studies that's been given. Thank you so much for adding your point, Shilpa. Right. Now, once you do that, once you have brainstormed the solution, you are encouraging people to contribute the ideas. You are encouraging everyone to participate in the process. Now, evaluate the options. Once a range of solutions have been generated, evaluate each option's feasibility to implement, right? Consider the long-term consequences and choose options which are promoting a mutual understanding, which are promoting a positive relationship. Once you choose a resolution based on the evaluation, go back and implement it. Seek consensus from everyone who is involved. Make sure that everyone agrees to the chosen solution. Once you implement it, go back, follow up and see if the implementation is effective, if the resolution is effective, if plan A is working. Regular check-in within the parties who are involved to assess progress. Do a regular check-in, provide support if needed, and address any lingering concerns or issues the team may have. Once you do that, learn from the conflict. Now this becomes your case study. It serves as an opportunity for growth and learning. Reflect on the conflict, identify lessons that can be applied to the future situations. That way, you are encouraging a culture of continuous improvement, conflict resolution skill development within the society, within the organization, within the team, within the group. So that is interpersonal conflict all about. Now, third level of conflict is intra-group conflict. Now, intra-group conflict is a conflict that happens typically within a group, a team. It involves disagreements, tensions, right? It comes within because of differences in goals or objectives, because of poor communication or miscommunication, because of role ambiguity, right? When there is an overlap of roles and responsibilities, right? Difference in working styles, different approaches, incompatibility in working styles, incompatibility in decision-making process, right? Resource allocation again plays a major role here. Yes, like Nirali has mentioned in the chat, because of competing nature of group members. Very true. Group norms and group values, right? When there are differences in group norms, when there are differences in ethical standards, right? And power dynamics. It can also stem from leadership or power dynamics within the group. When there is a lack of effective leadership, when there is an autocratic decision making, misuse of power, that is causing stress, that is causing conflict among group members. How do we reduce that? What strategies can be implemented? One is you address the conflict promptly, like we did in intergroup conflict, interpersonal conflict as well. It is crucial to address the conflict as soon as it arises, because the intention, the objective is to prevent the conflict from escalating, prevent the conflict from causing a further damage. That is more important, right? Ignoring or avoiding a conflict can also lead to resentment, can lead to a tension within the group. That's where you need to encourage open communication. You also foster open and respectful communication. You encourage everyone to communicate openly, respectfully, to express their perspectives, establish clear communication channels, encourage feedback from people. The moment you start encouraging a feedback, people will feel that they are heard, they are understood. Focus on common goals, we discussed this. Find a common ground, look for areas of agreement or a common ground between the conflicting parties. It is easier to build understanding. It is easier to work mutually when you find a common ground. Brainstorm the solutions together, evaluate the best option, the best the solution where everyone agrees. After you identify the underlying issues, create an action plan, implement it, follow up, and then evaluate the results, right? Evaluate the outcomes, assess whether the conflict has been adequately addressed. If not, then you go back to the brainstorming phase, look for another alternate, another possible solution that could be implemented. Involve everyone who were involved in the previous brainstorming of conflict. Seek feedback from your group members to make sure that they are satisfied, to make sure that we do necessary adjustments if the conflict still persists, right? When we implement these strategies, the group can create a more harmonious and productive environment where conflicts are effectively managed, conflicts are resolved. Again, it leads to a collaboration, trust, and a mutual respect among group members. Now, this was all about intra-group conflict. Now, last but not least is intergroup conflict. Intergroup conflict is a conflict which is between two different groups, two different stakeholders, two different functional teams, right? So they are based on various factors such as departments, teams, functions, divisions. It can arise because of variety of reasons. Difference in goals and objectives is there. Competition for resources is also there. Power struggles play a major role here. Perceived inequalities, when groups perceive unfair treatment, inequalities in terms of rewards, in terms of recognitions, in terms of opportunities, it can give rise to intergroup conflicts. They may stem out from feelings like injustice, feelings like discrimination, favoritism, like most of you said in the starting part of the session, right? Lack of communication and collaboration, different working styles, stereotyping and biased. It can fuel intergroup conflicts. Preconceived notions, prejudices, negative perceptions. It can often lead to misunderstanding, lack of trust, and conflict. But what plays a major role here? Why does it involve the top level of leadership to be a part of intergroup conflict? Is the organizational structure and designing. The organizational structure, its design also contributes to intergroup conflict. Factors such as functional silos, lack of cross-functional collaboration, inadequate integration mechanism, this creates barriers between groups and fostering conflict. So it is very essential for an organization to recognize intergroup conflict, address these intergroup conflicts, as they always end up having negative consequences on your brand image. Unmanaged intergroup conflict will definitely result in decreased productivity for sure, but they also reduce the morale, increase your employee turnover, your attrition, and a toxic work environment. By understanding these sources, by understanding the dynamics of intergroup conflicts, organization can implement strategies, interventions to foster collaboration, to improve communication, and build a positive relationship. Now, what strategies can be implemented here? Let's have a look at it. Now, one is foster positive intergroup relationships. How do we do that? By encouraging interactions and activities between cross-functional teams, between different functions that promote teamwork, that promote collaboration, that promote mutual understanding between different groups, right? Here, you as an organization are creating opportunities for socializing. You're creating opportunities for team building. Increase intergroup communication. You will have to enhance communication channels and platforms that facilitate information sharing, that facilitate collaboration between these groups, that acts as a bridge between these groups, right? Providing opportunities for regular dialogue and feedback. You have to promote empathy and perspective taking, train your people in empathy, train your people on emotional intelligence, address the source of conflicts, identify the root cause of intergroup conflicts. It may involve issues related to resource allocation, power dynamics, communication gaps, right? So mediations, facilitating discussions to facilitate a constructive dialogue, problem solving often plays a major role here. Develop shared goals and values, we discussed. Establishing standard operating procedures. Develop clear and consistent SOPs for intergroup collaborations, coordinations, which clearly defines the roles, which clearly defines responsibilities, decision-making processes that can minimize the ambiguity, that can reduce the potential conflict that arises from miscommunication or misunderstanding. Like I keep insisting, organizations always provide conflict resolution training, right? And leadership intervention plays a major role here. One has to encourage leaders to play an active role in prompting intergroup cooperation and resolving conflicts. Leaders should model positive behavior here. Leaders should foster a culture of respect and inclusivity. They should intervene when conflicts arise to facilitate the constructive resolutions. Go back to the story of the fly blind man and the elephant. A sighted man who enters the parable relates to a leadership intervention here, right? Once we start implementing these strategies, organizations can create a more harmonious work culture, collaborative work environment where intergroup conflicts are minimized. I cannot say that could be eradicated completely. They can be minimized, and groups will work together towards shared objectives and organization success, right? Choosing, okay, someone has written here in the group, I wanted to share my case study and want the right resolution from you. Okay, Nutan, I'll get back to you by the end of the session. Many a times management is, on the contrary, interested in divide and rule. Yes, British rule, people are habituated. More than 200 years people have been in that rule, right? So kahan se jayega अंग्रेजपन, kahin na kahin to thoda rahega, right? Okay, so this was all about 4 levels of conflict. We are at 8:15. I would request you guys to please stay if the session extends for around 15 to 20 minutes. Do we have any questions here upon 4 levels of conflict before we move towards understanding the Thomas Kilmann model of conflict?
No questions. You have, enlightened us very beautifully, very in detail. So I think you should move ahead.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Bina. Thank you so much. I mean, each of your contribution is making the session more interactive. There is always a learning.
The flow is excellent, Sumit.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Great. Now that we learned about the different levels of conflict and the strategies which we all are able to relate, with the conflicts that we face at a workplace, let us learn about how do we address them. What is Thomas Kilmann model of conflict all about, right? What do we see here on screen? Do you get to see these 2 arrows?
Yeah.
Okay. What do they represent?
Levels of assertiveness and cooperativeness. If it is
Right.
Amazing.
It could
amazing.
be low. Yeah.
Yes, sometimes it is low, sometimes it is high, right? Okay. So this Thomas Kilmann model of conflict instrument, it is widely used in understanding the conflict first and then managing the conflict. पहले हमको समझना है क्या करना है, फिर हमको manage करना. So this was developed by 2 gentlemen, Kenneth Thomas and Ralph Kilmann, right? It identifies 5 primary conflict handling styles. These 5 primary conflict handling styles are based on 2 dimensions, as you can see on screen. One is assertiveness, one is cooperativeness, right? Now, let us look at one style of handling a conflict, that is competing. Now, competing can be good, competing can be bad based on the situation. So in competing, one is more assertive, but less cooperative, right? Individuals who adopt this style are focused more on their own needs, their own goals, often at the expense of others. They assert their position, they try to win the conflict by using authority, by using power, or persuasive skills. But again, competing can be good. In what kind of a situations? When there is an internal job posting where you wanted to apply. You may have good relations with your colleagues, with your team members, but when there is a job, IJP, you wanted to apply, for a promotion, competing is well and good, right? Trying to prove that you're superior, often at the expense of others, competing is bad, right? Now, second is collaboration. Collaboration has both assertiveness and cooperativeness. The collaborating style, it often has high assertiveness and high cooperativeness, right? People who adapt collaboration, they often value open communication, active listening, creative problem solving, right? Because they seek a mutually beneficial solution. They always aim to find a win-win situation, win-win outcome. that addresses the concerns, the interest of every party who is involved. Right. Nirali says it takes time to trust. Until then, competing will only happen. Yes. But one has to build trust. One has to put certain efforts to build trust. How would you do that? By encouraging an open communication within teams. Compromising is another style of handling a conflict, where it has a moderative assertiveness and a moderative cooperativeness, right? Individuals who use this style often like to find a middle ground to reach a fair and a reasonable solution. They are willing to make concessions and find mutually acceptable compromises, even if they may not fully satisfy all parties. Right? Now, next is avoidance. Now, this style reflects low levels of assertiveness and low levels of cooperativeness. मुझे कुछ करना ही नहीं है, मुझे बस अटेंडेंस के लिए आना है, मुझे इसको अवॉइड करना है, हटना है यहाँ से, ठीक है? So this is more about avoiding. They may intend or they want to withdraw from the situation. They ignore the problem. They procrastinate. They delegate it to somebody else. It can be appropriate for tribal conflicts where emotions are high. When people are emotionally challenged, when there is a rise of emotions, you better avoid it. Don't try to address a conflict. Give them space.
It can
Right?
also happen. Sorry to add, I want to add
Yes.
something, Sumit. The avoiding situation can also come when I know at the end I'm neither going to gain or lose. So why to get into conflict,
Exactly.
right?
Yes.
And to the point of collaboration, I think collaboration comes initially we have to take a step ahead. We have to be accommodating enough. Once that is there, then only it can lead to collaboration style of
True.
manage
True.
the conflict.
Yes. Yes. Thanks for adding, Ambika. Right? Avoiding can also be in a certain situations. Think of a time where you are at a cafeteria, somebody is speaking about a political issue or a communal issue or a religious sentiment. You don't want to be a part of it. You better want to avoid it. That's where it is good. But then there is a big issue in the team. The project deadlines are, to be met. Nobody is able to make a decision. And as a leader, you wanted to avoid it. Koi aur to kar hi lega. Somebody else will do it. Why should I involve? That's where avoiding is bad, isn't it? Right? Now, accommodation. The accommodation has a low assertiveness, but high of a cooperativeness. People who adapt this style, they are willing to yield or adapt to the positions to satisfy the concerns of others, right? It may be appropriate when you want to preserve harmony, and at the same time, when the issue is of a low importance, right? Accommodation, kai bar you get to see in a personal relationships. When there is a conflict between friends, when there's a conflict in family, you end up accommodating things. Or when an issue is of a low interest, you will end up accommodating it because there is nothing much to lose here, right? And you don't want to invest your energy here, right? It is important. It is very important for each of one of us to know that this Thomas Kilmann model, this suggests that no style is universally appropriate for all situations. There could be a style where I may end up avoiding a conflict, but Ambika may end up competing for it. Anand may end up collaborating it, but Beena may end up accommodating it. Right? Yes, Sachin. Yes, Sachin. I understand we have 10 minutes more. Yeah. Great. Okay, then now let me take you through a pizza story. Think of these fun Fridays that we usually have at our workplaces. So there are two different pizzas lying on a table. One is full of cheese burst and one is of a thin crust pizza you get to see. Now you dive into the room, you gorge on your favorite cheese burst pizza, you take a fill, eat and leave. What kind of a conflict style is this?
Competing.
Avoiding.
Competing.
Assertive, very assertive.
Okay, high on assertive, low on cooperative, because you're not thinking of others, right? So it is competing.
Low on high on assertive and low on cooperation.
Yes, yes. So that is competing. I'm thinking only of myself. I'm not even asking who would want what, or I'm not even waiting for somebody else to take an initiative. Mujhe chahiye, bas chahiye. As simple as that. Right? Yes, it is competing. Now, I don't like a pizza. It's not my thing. So I just go, arey, aaj pizza aaya hai, I go away from the room. What kind of a style is this?
Avoiding.
Yes. See, we all are aware now of Thomas Kilmann model. Yes, yes. Avoiding. Now I ask John, which one do you like? He says, I like both cheese burst as well as thin crust. I say, okay, let us take it one each and go. What is this?
Collaborating.
Accommodating. No.
Okay.
Compromising.
No.
Collaboration.
Collaboration. ये भी chat में ये भी
Collaboration.
चाहिए, right? Collaboration.
Is
Right.
it not both accommodating and collaboration? I'm okay to have any of the pizza, please.
I'm okay to have is accommodating ना. अंबिका आपको thin crust चाहिए, but मुझे cheese bus चाहिए, but आपको भी cheese bus चाहिए, तो मैं छोड़ रहा हूँ आपके लिए.
This is accommodating.
Yes.
Okay.
ये देखिए. Which one do you like? I asked Ambika. Okay, now that Ambika is here, I asked Ambika, which one do you like? She says, I like thin crust. I offer her a thin crust, but in my heart, I also want a thin crust. Now, but I'm letting her have it. What is this?
Accommodation.
Accommodating.
है ना? Now, I asked Smita, one of my colleague, which one do you like? She says, I like cheese burst. What about you? And he says, I'm okay with anything. I don't have a choice. What is this?
Compromising.
Compromising.
Yes. Okay. So now it's amazing to see, we got to see all styles of, you have a clear understanding on all styles of conflict. Okay, this activity, I'll share it over an email with each one of you. Sachin, I'll share it with you considering the time we have. So I'm leaving it to you as an activity. You think of it and help us understand what conflict style would be apt for this situation. We discussed about this, identifying problems, clarifying perspectives, collaborating, brainstorming, and agree upon solution. This is the summarization of all strategies that we have discussed on 4 levels of conflict. Now, I want everyone, I want to see the group here. I want you to open your cameras. Please turn on your cameras for some time. So that's a request. Again, please turn on your cameras.
Please come on your cameras, guys. It's a humble request.
Great. Now, what I want you to do is, I want you to raise your left hand high like this, S, and say, this is a conflict. Say,
This is a conflict.
This is the conflict.
this is a conflict. Make a fist and bring your right hand like this. And say, this is me.
This is me.
This is me.
Now bring your left hand closer. The conflict is coming towards you. It's coming towards you. Bring your right hand closer. You're going towards conflict and press. You're pushing the conflict. Conflict is pushing you. You're pushing the conflict. You are again trying to push the conflict. What do you feel?
Complete discomfort.
Discomfort. What else do you feel?
Pressure.
Pain, pressure.
Pain, pressure. Are you happy about this?
No.
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 Uncomfortable.
Okay.
Uncomfortable.
Release your hands. Now bring your left hand again towards you. Now say, this is conflict.
This is conflict.
This is me.
This is me.
The conflict is coming towards you. You are going towards conflict, but then open your palm. Bring your hands closer. Shake hands. What do you feel? You are embracing a conflict here. You are acknowledging a conflict is there. You are embracing a conflict. Is there a fear?
No.
No.
Is there a force?
No.
Is there a pain?
No.
What do you feel? What are your feelings now? Are you relaxed?
Relax.
Comfortable?
Yes.
Comfort.
Yes. That is the beauty of embracing a conflict.
The sky will not fall down.
Yes.
Fantastic.
So folks, that is what I had for the day. This was the last activity for the day. What you resist, persist. Yes, yes. I have a problem with my camera, Hemant, but I'm sure you were able to do this and understand the impact of conflict and how beautifully we can embrace it. Yeah, that's great. Okay, then I think we have quite less time. If you have any questions, I'm open to it.
Maybe you can stop sharing the screen so that
Yes.
you.
Yes.
Before questions, I would just like to barge in. Okay, I want to say that this was such an engaging, session, full of this, because I take conflict management sessions. So it was really nice. I loved your PPTs. I loved the way you presented it. Right. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Veena-ji.
Hi, Sumit. I just want to share with you the power of your wisdom on this particular topic. You know what happens, Sumit? We're all trainers, and I always used to say, if one of my co-trainer want to really go and make some money from a corporate and he really wants my module, my content, he likes so much, I used to give my content to him. But people used to say, how that you can give a content so freely, your own content to someone free of cost. I used to say, it's not about the module, it's about the presentation. So my presentation is unique compared to that of the other person. So he has got his own style. Contents remain the same. Anybody you give content is not going to make a matter at all. It's how you are going to engage the audience. Each and every point, Sumit, you just deliberated so beautifully, 100 points are flowing out from each bullet point. So that's expertise of yours in this particular topic. Thank you so much. So wonderful.
Thank you so much. I'm honored. Thank you so much. But I thank each one of you because your contributions have made the session more interesting. Like I said in the initial part of the session, I expected to learn from each one of you, and my agenda of taking this session, learning from each one of you here, has been great. It's met. Yes, Mr. Salam. Yeah.
No, it's just an appeal to all the listeners and participants. We have been doing a tremendous work in getting you all gems out of the industry for you to learn and to spread the message to everyone. We would love to see more and more audience being physically present for these kind of sessions. Please spread the word so that people attend Tuesday learnings. Make it a point because it's highlighted everything. I can see Mr. Gabbar shaking his head. Sir, please share the message across. I've been not seeing you much, so good to see you now. Please. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Salam, and the whole Tuesday Learning team for continuously bringing us non-stop sharings and learnings from the experts, industry experts. Thank you. Very commendable job.
Yeah. Also, guys, like as Salam is saying, share it with your friends who are in the training industry. Yeah, whether they join the IAM group, they don't join, that does not matter. Yeah, but at least share the recordings. Let them also get enlightened, some inputs. Yeah, spread it to your people whom you know. And maybe Sumit, if you would like to take any questions, maybe one or two, not more, maybe just
exactly, yeah.
Maybe just 3 questions. Yeah, anyone wants to ask something, get some clarity?
I have a question. Can I?
Yes, please.
Sure. So thank you very much. It was very insightful, very, it was nice to see that the way, the seamless approach that you took up. So when we look at conflict, we also look at as a culture of opportunities as well, because that's where you kind of have divergent point of view. So what can be done, when we have conflicts where this is seen more as an opportunity for growth and innovation rather than, having it as an obstacle or hindering factors. So are there any activities which can be done to make sure, because, when people speak, they have their own perspective over here, which could open new doors, so how do we take this as a more positive way rather than looking it as something which is not called for? Any inputs on this?
Yeah. So mostly what I usually do is the very first thing that I try to analyze is what level of audience am I training, right? That is one thing. Before a session, I always run a survey asking them, what kind of a conflicts do they face on a day-to-day basis? Are there any particular situations where they find handling a conflict is quite difficult, right? You need to run such kind of a survey and let people help you with case studies, right? That's where you will understand what would they like to get trained on conflict.
Okay.
Yes. And based on that, you would be able to cater your, content, your PowerPoint presentations, and these case studies, you can adapt it or relate it with the strategies that you speak about, and you can also create role plays out of it, right? Create a situations, have bingo cards ready, have take a printout of the role plays of those case studies, allow people to go back and to implement the strategies that they have learned, and then you'll get to see that there are 2 objectives that are being met. One is your audience understands, they are there to learn what on the issues that they have been facing problems. Okay, this was a situation which was quite difficult for me to handle. This was a situation where I had no proper resolution technique to do, and I'm getting trained on it. And they are eager to implement it as well, right? So in activities, in terms of conflict resolution, try to identify what kind of a audience you are training on. Use ADDIE module. that would help you a lot, right? Run surveys, try to check what are their expectations out of the session, cater your PowerPoint presentation in that way, and in role plays, you can adapt these techniques.
Sure, sure. Thank you, Sumit. It was nice.
Last two
Because the case
questions.
studies would differ from a level 1 audience, and case studies would differ from leaders as well. In leadership roles, that is more in terms of their relations with different stakeholders. Yes or no?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Any last two questions if anyone would like to ask? If you have any.
There is one I wanted to ask. I'm also sorry, I'm looking a mess because I'm just going through viral right now, but I wanted to attend this. You know, when a conflict management was done by me, they also wanted the English part as to how they can frame or communicate their ideas, their, how to clear the misunderstandings. Just giving them the tips on just using the I, that I understand you. The empathy part was not the only thing they were happy about. They wanted something more. So what kind of English or communication part can we, include if it is a training on conflict management? Because there are many, whether they are in a leadership role or whether they are mid-managers, they're unable to express it well when it comes to speaking in English. So is there anything that we can add, to help them be a better speaker?
Right. If, this was a thought that was running in my mind as to what would I cover in 60 minutes, considering, the next 90 minutes for the introduction, question and answers and all, right? That's where I prioritize 4 levels of conflict management alongside Thomas Gilman. But if I had to do a session 2 on conflict resolution, in the next session, I would love to train people on 7 C's of communication, followed by assertive communication and a bit of interpersonal skills.
Okay.
Yeah. So you will start with 7 C's of communication, where you will train them on, how to make a clear communication, concise, being more courteous, which is very important when it comes to, address conflicts, followed by an assertive way. You will end up seeing that people are either aggressive or on a passive side. But there is a beauty of assertive communication. The intent is same, but the way you portray matters a lot, right? And then when people don't want to communicate with each other, or most of the time there is an hindrance of communicating, right? That's where interpersonal skills play a major role, right? You can add these 3 topics alongside conflict resolution to make it more effective in terms of communication.
Negotiation skills and problem solving were added to conflict management. But I think I can also give this. Thank you for that.
So you should prioritize communication, assertive communication, and interpersonal skills, followed by negotiation and problem solving. Right? You may be good at problem solving, but you may not be able to put your words, with the same intent and impact. That's where communication plays a very important role.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Any last person? Any last question, guys?
I have one question here.
Yes, please.
Sumit, I have dealt with this communication, conflict management and resolution, but there always has been one question which thankfully nobody asked, but I would like to know in case somebody does in future. So can all conflicts be solved? We have discussed 5, Thomas Gilman's way, 5 ways of solving conflicts, but do you think that every conflict has a resolution? Are there situations where conflicts just remain as conflicts?
Yes, there are. Not all conflicts can be fully resolved, right? That is a universal truth, but they can be effectively managed. They can be transformed into constructive outcomes. That is what is an agenda of training people on conflict resolution, right? For an example, consider 2 co-workers who disagree on an approach, right, towards a project. If they engage in open communication, they may find a compromise, right, that blends their ideas, fostering collaboration and all, right? However, there are also cases of deeply rooted issues, like cultural differences is one of them, fundamental values, where a resolution may not be possible. So instead of focusing on a mutual respect and, instead, one should start focusing more on mutual respect, understanding, where both parties can coexist peacefully, right?
Okay.
So a relevant example is, this example is an ongoing conflict in international relations. Let us take a relevant example of conflict in an international relations, where parties may not reach to a complete resolution, but can achieve agreements that can reduce the tensions, isn't it?
Great.
Treaties that establish ceasefires or trade agreements, anything, that can an agreement that can reduce the tension. So ultimately, the goal is often not to eliminate a conflict. We're not trying to eliminate a conflict. It cannot be eliminated, but can be managed it to an extent that minimizes the harm and promotes an understanding. That should be the end goal.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That's a wonderful input. Thank you, Sumit.
Thanks, guys, for asking your questions. Now coming to the last part, any 5 of you would like to share your one-liner key takeaway from today's session? A one-liner, yeah? I'm being very specific. A one-liner key takeaway.
Shilpa here.
Mm-hmm.
It has added to my maturity to look at in a positive way or a better way whenever conflict happens, and resolve it or manage it at the least. So that's my key takeaway, and I'm very happy to have this key takeaway.
Yes. Any last 4?
I have written
This
this
model
strategies
was my wow moment. It was great.
Pooja, couldn't hear you. Can you please come again?
Thomas Kilmann model.
Okay, great. Fantastic.
It was my key takeaway. Thank you.
Fantastic. Last 3.
strategies to manage
collaboration.
conflicts.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Collaboration is my key takeaway.
Collaboration, wonderful.
Conflict should not be ignored.
I'm sorry?
Conflicts should not be ignored.
Should not be ignored. Fantastic.
Even if avoided, but should not be ignored.
Great. Okay, I too would share, some insight that even in my team, sometimes when there is no conflict, I am more worried. Conflict kyun nahi hai? So sometimes people are like submarines. Okay, and suddenly it is a shock. So when there are conflicts, I see it as a very good sign. Yeah.
Yeah, they say there is a saying that says, where there is no trust, there is no conflict. Here we are speaking about a healthy conflict. There has to be a trust to have healthy conflicts in teams.
Great.
Yes.
Fantastic.
In fact, I would like to tell one thing, that some of the people, they use one statement when I call about conflict. They said, nahi, hamari aapas mein banti hai. Now this is a very important sentence. Hamari aapas mein banti hai. Aapas mein banti hai, how do you know that? Is that a sign that, healthy relationship is there? Possibly you are ignoring whatever is happening. बात नहीं कर रहे. So to me, बात करने से ही बात बनती है. And if that is true, बात ना करने से ही बात बिगड़ती है.
Great.
All the more true. And conflict का origin भी वहीं से, बात ना करने से. और लोग वही दबाते हैं, बात मत करो. Don't fight. Even if people are discussing, no, don't. You come to me, you come to me. Ignore, दबा दो. Very common way in industry.
Right.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah.
So guys,
The last,
uh-huh.
yeah, just the last question that someone asked, like, can all the
Preeti.
conflicts be solved? Yes, Preeti. And when Sumit was explaining, suddenly one thing came into my mind, that the best and sabke ghar mein jo example hai all over the globe is husband-wife relation, because that has to be managed. I mean, the conflict has to be managed whenever you have the
इसके लिए
conflict.
अलग से सेशन करना पड़ेगा.
Relaxation.
So
That's where
I thought,
accommodation
like,
plays a
that's the
major
best
role.
example. That's the best example. Whatever is the reason, we have to manage it, whether it is, even if it is not solved.
I think it can be answer the conflict, whether it can be resolved or not. It depends on if these two people are willing to resolve it or not. If they are not willing, then nobody can help them. If they are actually willing, then we can find out a way. I feel so.
Yeah. So one of them has to accommodate. At least one of them should have that willingness to accommodate.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Compromise
Sumit,
aa
we
hi
should
jata
have
hai.
your better half here for resolving that.
Pardon?
I said we should have your better half in the session to solve that.
Oh, ज़्यादा और conflict हो जाएगा. Salam. Very bad suggestion. Not a good one.
That's where I keep telling in my conflict resolution sessions, like, accommodation, ask a married man. Most of the time, I am willing to accommodate on weekends. I don't want any kind of a conflict, verbal conflict on weekends. From Friday night
Elvis,
until Sunday night, I am willing to accommodate everything that comes across.
Elvis like to conclude with a joke. Actually, it's like a tarot reader, He's just, husband is coming and asking, how is my time? He said, time is very bad, okay? So how long it will be? It will be 10 years. It will be very bad time between you and wife. After that, you get used to it. After 10 years, you'll get used to it. So that's an horoscope reader, tarot reader forecast. Yeah. So first line relationship, always accept. After acceptance, endure. After endurance, you get used to it.
We build a muscle for that, right?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, guys, to end, please come on the videos. Please come on your camera. Those who can, please come on your camera.
Yeah.
And let's,
give
give some
reactions.
reaction first before coming to Sumit for the Tuesday learning team, guys. Let's,
Yeah, for the
you can use any of the reactions down, balloon or whatever you want.
I want to give the best reaction taught by Sumit to me.
Tuesday learning team is really working very hard. This is the 12th session. Yeah, they are being very consistent. They are, planning and scheduling, creating posters, floating it. One fantastic job, Tuesday learning. Ram, Divya, Sachin. And now, last but not the least, our expert for today, Sumit. Let's also give some reaction for Sumit. It was fantastic, very well, very structured and organized session.
Absolutely.
So yes, that is from my end.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you so much. That
And
means a lot.
thanks, Sumit. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Have a good night.
Abundance.
good night. Bye-bye.